Aloha, Aliman. I really appreciate you reading my paper. I have really been looking forward to getting some feedback on it, and as someone who has read a lot of Whitehead, I think that you're in a position to appreciate it more than most people who would read it. There's not a large audience for this particular these thinkers, Gene Gebser, Francisco Varela, and Whitehead. So your feedback was excellent, and the copy that you were reading on Gaia, unfortunately, doesn't include my footnotes. And in regards to what you're discussing about Kant sort of being interpreted only in light of the first critique of pure reason, there is a footnote that I wanted to read about Kant's last philosophical text, the Opus Posthumum, and I think this text, along with the critique of judgment, are where I think the real meat of Kant is, because in the critique of judgment he talks about living organization, so it's the first attempt to turn a scientific eye onto the matter of life itself. And Kant recognized that you could not account for living organization, or consciousness for that matter, in Newtonian or mechanical terms, mathematical terms, because life behaved purposefully. This, for Kant, though, could only ever be a principle of our judgment of nature, of organisms, of life. And to try to talk about what life was in itself was kind of, it would be a theological discussion where you have to base it all on faith, and there's no reason for it, no rational reason, no scientific reason. In other words, it's turning the interior aspect of human experience into something entirely separate from the exterior world of matter and motion. And so, as you said, Aliman, Kant definitely retains this Cartesian divide between mind and matter. However, I'll just quote my footnote here. In his last philosophical text, the Opus Posthumum, Kant realized that his thinking on this matter, that being the dualism between mind and matter, was incomplete. Varela argues that, quote, without invalidating the a priori categories that had been the possibility of all knowledge, Kant finds an entirely new foundation for them, that being the lived body. The moving forces of matter, prime subject of natural science, are not deduced from or dictated by the a priori categories of reason, but themselves are basic experience underlying all a priori categories. End quote. Thus we know an organism is intrinsically purposeful and self-organizing, because we extrapolate as much from our own experience as organisms. So right there, Kant is, as Varela would say, embodying the mind, recognizing that the a priori categories, the possibilities of all knowledge, are themselves a basic experience. So life becomes the ultimate ontological category, bridging the former dualism, ontological dualism, between mind and matter. Life being our experience of the rest of experience. I mean, the body, my body, your body, all bodies have a certain experience of one universe. But somehow that one universe connects all of their experience. So all that there is experience. And for Whitehead, energy is this movement of feeling through time. And time is where it gets interesting. You wanted me to sort of further elaborate what it is about the integral structures coming to awareness of time that makes it significant, and that makes it allow us to see biology in light of time, in light of evolution. The truth of evolution is something that did turn the ancient and classical understanding of nature upside down, or at least to kind of turn this vertical understanding of the great chain of being into this horizontal developmental unfolding over vast spans of time. Ancient cosmology considers the universe to be a place. Modern cosmology, Big Bang Theory, relativity, understands that the universe is an event. It's the unfolding of a sequence of novel emergences, which are still continuing today. And so this modern understanding of time, then, is forcing us into a new frame of experience where we no longer think of the past, the present, and the future as places. In other words, we no longer falsely spatialize time, but we see that the past and the future always interpenetrate our experience of now, of the present. The present is a blending of past and future, of actuality and possibility. And the more complex we are as material systems, the more contrasts we can distinguish in this relationship between the poles of mind and matter, or possibility and actuality. But again, life, the lived body, is the basic element where both of these poles are united. So, time not being considered in spatial terms forces us to recognize the teleological freedom of every body in the universe, from the atomic to the human scale and beyond. So again, when time comes into awareness as itself, rather than as some falsely spatialized conception of it, what we recognize is that the future represents the horizon of possibilities for our activity in the present, and the past represents the habits that we're given, which provide us with an opportunity to choose amongst a certain set of determinate possibilities. If there were no past, there would be just pure potential, which the original decision to incarnate, Spirit's original decision to incarnate at the Big Bang, was a decision without a past. And so that is itself an expression of creativity. The Big Bang, it's the most general, the most pure and essential example of creativity itself, and we are further complexification of that. We're a movement of pure potential through time. We're a moving image of eternity, in other words, as Plato put it. That's where the teleology of living matter comes from. The fact that it is made in the image of the eternal, of the non-moving, of the essential. Living forms are just that, forms in the Platonic sense. They're ideas expressed in and as and through the activity of matter and the experience of matter. Recognizing time integrally like this. And at the end of the paper, I talked about what Gebser calls presentiation, making all of space and time present such that it becomes whole in its incompleteness. It's incomplete because it's always moving forward. Time is a process of becoming, undoubtedly, but when you presentiate it all, when you bring the full immensity and intensity of experience to bear, you start to become aware of the purposes inherent in this unfolding. In other words, as matter becomes more and more complex, it gains the ability to decide, to see into the future, and to value certain outcomes more than others. And so, matter is on a mission, in other words. It's not a mere mechanism. And probably out of time, so I'll leave it there. I'll probably have a part 2, but if not, if I don't get to it for a while, thanks again, Aliman. Definitely appreciated your thoughts, and let me know what this video may have stirred in your head. Look at me reverting right back to Cartesianism.